Welcome back to Fancastic, folks. We have a special treat today. We've got Deneen Diaz joining us with our expert, Triantos, and we're basically doing a 2025 in review. So we're looking for trends and insights. Deneen and Christine, I know that you guys talk to hundreds of firms throughout the year. You've been to all these events. You're hot back from Digital CPA, where I heard you got your picture on a box of Wheaties, which is great. But let's just dig in. Like, welcome. Let's talk about what some of the major themes are. So you just got back from Digital CPA, been talking with firms all year. What are you hearing that they're struggling with?
Yeah, I mean, thanks for having me, ladies. By the way, I'm so excited. This is my first time on Fancastic, and you're right, Kristy. I talk to firms all year long about what their goals are, their challenges are, and the main theme this year
And I
that
would just, before we go there, thanks to Canopy for our box of Wheaties.
I know that was the best. I think that was the best idea ever from a marketing perspective. How brilliant! Really brilliant. But going back to like the main themes that I was hearing from CAS leaders and CAS teams is they have a lot of work and they are drowning. There's so much business. There's more business out there. And also we hear that there's like a wait list of people for the services. But in the same breath, we're hearing a lot about how they need to deliver clear CAS deliverables. So I think the leaders are seeing is that their talent is really good at preparing the financial statements and being precise, but the talent is really struggling with how to analyze the data, advise on the data, do storytelling around the data. And so that's the themes and the two main themes we are hearing this year.
I would just add to that too. I think one of the main themes is when we talk about moving into advisory, firms are also overwhelmed right now with AI and with technology and software. And so it's like, okay, great. Now we have this product. Now, how do we really take it and make that into something that's more advisory rather than you're just sending this reporting package and, hope that it tells a story on its own, right? And so that's really kind of like this hole that we have just been hearing from CAS leaders of just as filling that space and how are we moving in 2026, which we'll get into of filling that void or what seems to be just a little bit more of a opportunity for the CAS teams to evolve.
To move into that advisory. Well, and I think, like when we started out, when I started doing this over 15 years ago, CAS was client accounting services. Then I started to hear people say it's client accounting and advisory services. And now what I'm really hearing firms say, and we say it's client advisory services. But the typical firm talent is still doing the accounting work and they're trying to now build out the advisory services. And so the talent is very good at gathering the data and reporting on the data. What they struggle with though is when you look at like what a controller and a CFO does, they're not just preparing a financial statement and talking about, the report. They're really talking about the trends and making recommendations and it's not as precise, it's not as accurate. And so that shift into advisory, I think, is
Yeah.
what task teams are really struggling with and working towards for next year.
Well, and it makes sense that the big responses you're continuing to get are one, we're drowning in work, and B, we need to
Yeah.
deliver clear cast deliverables. But let's go back to the very foundation of this. And it is that those acronyms. So it did start out as client accounting services, which really was the back office stuff. So firms would come in, their marketing language would be, let us take over the back office. That's a lot of compliance work. Then advisory came into the game and they added the extra A. But really, it has morphed into advisory. That's where value based pricing comes in. That's where the real revenue stream comes in terms of pricing yourself on value. So I think that distinction is really important to understand that CAST really does stand for, in terms of what firms want, client advisory services. And so, of course, they're struggling because initially outsourcing meant outsourcing really a lot of the compliance work. And so, how does your staff now interpret advisory over just the back office stuff?
Yep. Well, and I
Makes
think
sense.
additionally, and that makes sense, but I think additionally, I think the clients are more savvy
For
and the
sure.
clients
Yes.
are asking for more. And they know, that their books are a mess or that they need a financial statement, but they're not even looking at the financial statement. They're looking at the cash flow. And they want to have those cash flow discussions with their accountant. So I think that the client is asking for more advisory as well.
Agreed.
I would agree with that. And like you said, they're more savvy too. They're also very aware of AI and the repetitive work that AI can take over. So they are looking to their firms thinking, I need you to go deeper and do more for me. I mean, that's what I'm hearing from firms anyway.
And I would just say, like, deeper, but also just, and we say this all the time, but truly proactive, right?
Yes.
When you get to the financial reporting, you get to the packets, and you get to even what AI is giving you, it's, oh, here's what we saw as trending in your financials, and here's, what was
Yes.
maybe off. But now it really, what clients need is, okay, so what do I do with that? And how do I rectify that? And how do I improve this, KPI, whatever that is that's important to them and within their special niche industry. But that's where this whole like proactive storytelling comes into place.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes. Being proactive, not being reactive, not coming in once the fire has started. I remember uh, my old partner, Rootworks Darren, we were talking once about the level of service we wanted to offer our members. And we always likened it to the Ritz Carlton. So the Ritz, they're very proactive, but they go beyond that and actually anticipate the needs of their clients because they know so much about them. So, for example, someone checked in that was a regular. Someone overheard that they lost their sunglasses on the beach, and the Ritz Carlton went and got those same sunglasses for that particular client. Now, that's obviously a very huge example, but you get what I'm saying here. Like firms really are starting to move toward anticipating clients' needs more. And it's like being proactive on steroids.
right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Well, and I think the best part of that is you can charge more for those proactive services. Think about the
Talk
type
about
of person
value, right?
that
Value.
goes to the Ritz. The type of person that goes to the Ritz, what they're paying is for that experience. The Ritz can't
Yes.
afford to buy them those glasses, right? And
Right.
so I think that's a big part of the conversation too. Is these advisory skills being, proactive. It's a premium cost. You can charge more for these types of services that clients are asking for. And so that's going to shift your CAS practice to be way more profitable. But I know it's getting the talent there. That's where a lot of the conversations we've been having at Infinite Ties with the CAS leaders is how do we help with that shift?
Well,
Yeah.
and to your point, Deneen, too, when you go to the Ritz Carlton, it's not that you don't expect it to be cheap. You don't expect it to be
Right.
inexpensive. So it really is going back to several of our podcasts of it still is conveying the value, right? Conveying the value to the client to not only give them what they're asking for, but really value propositions, proactive planning. Really, how are you making an impact on their business for future earnings for them?
And talk about a sticky factor too. Like I'm never going to leave you if you're being proactive
That's
and
right.
you're providing all these insights up front, like so beyond the need for compliance. Um, So you guys have really sort of already answered this and set me up for this next question. It's really, I do want to continue to identify the big themes over 2025. And so when we talk about being proactive and advisory, you brought up pricing. That's still a big issue for firms. Is that one of the themes that came up at Digital CPA or just through your work with firms at Infinite Ties?
Not, I mean,
No?
not, it's not. I think people are really already making the shift to like the tiered, the like three different tiers. I'm hearing that a lot. I think firms have done a good job that are moving into CAS. I do think that the CAS practice, they've done a good job. The thing that the main thing that everybody's talking about in accounting, certainly in CAS, is AI. Right? That was the theme of the digital conference. I mean, AI. I find though it to be a very fuzzy word because AI is very general and there's so many different types of AI.
Yeah.
And so we really like to talk about it. And Christine, you talk about this a lot and breaking it down because there's robotics, there's deep learning, there's machine learning, there's people. It's not just Chat GPT, right? And so where in accounting, I've asked this question a lot because everyone's talking about AI, but who is using AI tools to help with the transactional work? And what tools are you using in the CAS space? And then also, there's all this AI coming out to help firms be advisory. So I've been asking firms, what tech are you using? What AI tools are you using to me be more advisory? I don't hear of one answer yet. It's
Yeah.
still a very new space in the accounting space, and there's tech coming at us that are telling us we're going to save you time in the transaction work and we're going to help you be advisory. But I know some firms that are starting to test out some of those techs, but I'm not hearing a winner yet. What do you think, Christine?
Yeah, so I mean, just to, I agree with what everything Deneen is saying and all of the buckets and categories. I think firms are overwhelmed with technology right now. And so when you think about CAS specifically, you're really putting it into two major buckets, right? One is the automation of that. And then the second bucket is really truly the advisory piece of that. And so it's so important. And so that theme of what came from 2025 with AI is, yes, we're overwhelmed, but yeah, now what do we do with it? And what is our strategy for our clients? And how are we going to make this useful? And how are we going to price this properly, make this useful, make this valuable so that this is really where firms really truly are moving and want to move, is into that advisory space, even on a deeper level as a trusted advisor.
Well, and along those lines, another reoccurring theme that we are hearing is a focus on soft skills. And I think it goes hand in hand with that AI conversation because, and Christy, you said, right, the CAS used to be sort of like the back office. And so it was gathering the data and, putting it into the GL and reporting on the data. And since AI is going to be doing a lot of the heavy lifting there and saving the humans time there, how do we upskill them to be comfortable with those client conversations? And it's something that we've focused on here at Infinite Ties. We brought in soft skills experts because CAS leaders were asking for it. Their talent, they're mathematical minded, they like the numbers, they love their customers, but struggling with having that client connection, those client conversations, and there's a lot that in this advisory space that they need help trained on. I mean,
Yeah.
and so soft skills came up a lot, and the talent that is able to connect with the client, tell stories of the data, that is what is helping their CAS practice just soar.
Yeah. Well, and what a great use for AI in addition in helping people learn how
Yeah.
to have those conversations or improving on those conversations. So you can create, as you know, your own GPT, your own little bot, feed in your client meeting transcripts, feed in other sorts of transcripts, I mean, internal, external, and then have AI give you back almost like a score. Hey, on a personal level, you hit this. You really did the background on the client. On this, you should have talked more about pricing. On this, you shouldn't have shied away from this. There are ways that AI can help develop those conversations or develop those soft skills. And I think firms need to be aware of that too. You're not all on your own to figure out the script. You can use AI as your sort of like bestie to help you along and how to talk to. I mean, a lot of people are using AI. I'm going to use the term therapy, but just to talk and say, like, how am I doing? How can I be better? You can really help develop those conversations and get them to the point where they're most effective if you're constantly basically reviewing what you've already said. Just always improving is what I'm getting at, I guess. Very long winded way to say always improving, and AI can help with that.
Yep, agreed.
Yep, absolutely. Although I think the challenge is not to be too AIE
Right, for
and to
sure.
be more authentic. But I
Mhm.
also think that the traditional accounting firm have trained the talent to kind of not be authentic, to not talk about your day or your kids or the challenges that you're having and to show up and be very professional and just talk about the numbers. And I think that is changing too, where you need to be more authentic. People can tell if you chat GPT something in an email
Sure,
or in a
for sure.
post. You can tell, right? And so it's finding the balance of creating that trust and relationship and and really feeling like the business owner feels like you have their best interest, you understand their business, you're going to help their business evolve and thrive. And so that's like the ask we're getting a lot of in those
Mhm.
soft skills is helping the talent who has kind of been trained to do it one way to think outside of the box and to grow those skills that they didn't really have to grow before.
I would
Yeah,
just add to that too, though, because we were working with a company called Ping,
Yeah,
and their AI within their email responses has been fantastic. And so,
amazing.
like to your point, Deneen, you don't want it to be too AIE, but I really feel like their product is really personable. But now insert adding all this AI and really what it's doing with productivity, because on an email that you might have spent, 20 minutes trying to wordsmith, you now have this really fantastic response that you just have to go in and edit. You're like, this sounds like me, this sounds like my voice, and this sounds personable. And so I do think that like the upside of that is really creating that capacity as well.
yeah, and I don't want to skip over that. So I think I would like to end on this topic here. Authenticity is key. You When I say use AI to help you create these discussions, you're using AI as a sounding board to help you get better, as a learning mechanism, but you're always bringing your human self to the table, right? Because my firm belief is that AI is not here to eliminate, it's here to elevate, right? The human's never being taken out of the equation. So I like that you brought up authenticity in terms of talking to clients and the client experience, because it is important. Use AI, but don't lose the human.
Right. Agreed.
Was there something around before we go into looking out at 2026 and goals of firms? Another theme of 2025, staffing model
Yeah. Yeah.
issue.
Oh, for sure. I mean, there's still a shortage of talent. There's more businesses than there are CAS teams. And so we heard a lot of offshoring more than ever before. And a lot of firms are successfully offshoring. So it's definitely matured. Um, but Christine, I think you
I would
talked
just
better about that.
add, well, I would say though that the firms that we see that are offshoring that are most successful are the ones that are offshoring the higher level work as well. Not just it's not just the staff level work, the lower level work, because a lot of that is being done by the AI automation. So where they're finding success is in that higher level advisory, also having those offshore teams being their tech gurus too, with all of this AI and all the third party software that CAS practices and teams bring into play. They're becoming the experts too, and so that's just what I see, that firms are most successful also at that higher level.
Excellent. Well, let's move into 2026 then, because I'm sure you heard a lot about goals for next year, which is the whole reason for these year-end events, is to get people ready and set to head into the new year. So, what are some of the things you're hearing on CAS goals for 2026 from firms?
So there's three key things that I keep reoccurring, like everyone's talking about. Three main things. One, we've touched on this a lot, is talent elevation. Elevating the talent, upskilling the talent, helping with the soft skills, helping with the storytelling, move them into advisory. So elevating the talent they have. I also believe a lot of CAS teams are recognizing they need to bring different talent in as well. It's a different type of hire that they're bringing into the CAS team. They're people bringing people in from industry. They're bringing in a lot of non CPA accounting type talent, technical talent to the CAS teams, so to help everybody else like upskill as well. Technology is the second. A lot of technology integration, driving the automation. How do we automate more, use AI more, have deeper AI assisted workflows. And so technology is the second key theme we're hearing. And then the third is integrating teams, because a lot of the CAS practices, or a lot of firms, I guess, are acquiring other firms. I talked to a lot of people that are also acquiring CFO practices. And how are they bringing that into their CAS team? And then how are they helping, like we mentioned, that talent be the human side. Like, how do they elevate getting to know each other, getting to know their team, getting to know other people at the practice? A lot of that has to do with change and change management. I heard a lot about change management. So, how do you create that one firm um, thinking, that one firm playbook, one way
Right.
to standardize and deliver those services?
So I would
So,
just go back to, like a lot those key topics. So Deneen, one with the staffing and, the upskilling, that's always been a goal of firms. But what I felt like was a shift going from last year into this year is that firms are really investing in the into the education, into the training, and also
Great.
adjusting a lot of charge hour budgets to accommodate for this additional upskilling and training, right? So not only is it dollars that they're providing for the upskilling, but they're also adjusting internal goals and metrics so that it's doable, right? Because a lot of times
Yeah.
you're like, okay, yes, we'd love for you to do all this training, but you said your billable, hours still need to be X, and you can't lose any productivity. And I feel like firms are really now coming into that's not necessarily working, and that's not reality. So how do we shift this
Yeah.
and make it maybe painful in the meantime for a greater outcome, in the future?
So a lot of what we're talking about obviously is moving into advisory from that more compliance based place. And so you're really moving people from being precise reporters on numbers to proactive storytellers. So what can firms do to make that switch, because it's not an easy one. And you've talked about role plays before. How does that help with the transition?
well, we do recommend role playing. I will say talent hate it. They do not
It's because
enjoy.
it's weird. It's just a little weird. I get it.
They
I
don't.
get it.
They get more nervous, I think, in front of their
Yeah.
peers or their boss with the role playing. But
Yeah.
practice makes perfect, and storytelling is a trainable skill set. And so give different, suggestions. Like, if a client has a cash dip in 6 weeks, why don't you pitch two different options and what are the trade-offs, and have them practice those discussions so it becomes kind of normal. And I mean, I have a funny scenario, but it's kind of what we do with our kids, right? And so I role play with my daughter and talk about drugs and alcohol and peer pressure. And I say to her, listen, when you're in high school and that really hot guy finally asks you out
Or
and
girl.
takes you to a party and says, have a drink, what are you going to say? And practice saying, "No, I don't drink." Right? I mean, it is sort of what we train our kids to do is practice. And so it's just might be a funny example, but role playing is you do it in all different scenarios. This is the perfect scenario to help upskill them to be more comfortable telling stories.
Yeah, you do prepare her that women are bad influence too, right? Just
That's
not the hot
true.
guys,
Just not to be the hot guy. That's true.
right? So I want to be sure, like, your daughter is clear on that there are, yes, us can be. I was never the bad influence, but I had a lot of female friends that were a very
Yeah,
bad influence
it's
on
true.
me.
Yes, we role play all kinds of scenarios.
I do want to talk about CAS leaders because there's a lot of role reframing that needs to happen moving into a true CAS model. What does that look like for 2026, Christine?
I think same with what we were just talking about the staff a little bit, but it's having firms allow their CAS leaders be strategic, right? Giving them the space and opportunity to be strategic and not be so client facing, which I know is really, really hard, but that's really, CAS leaders just need the time and space to be able to do that. Really, CAS leaders need to focus on the playbook, what we call playbook, and then we also call it pathway, right? And those are two different things. The pathway is the firm's strategic goals, and it's your marketing, your all of the managing partners, your leaders that really understand what you're delivering. And then the playbook is for your CAS teams to follow. And that's all of the standardization for your clients and just really making that kind of turnkey. Because to Deneen's point, we have so many firms that are acquiring firms. all the time. And so they just need something to follow. And so that's just been, I think, a theme, but that's really where CAS leaders need to, I think, reframe for 2026. But they have to have the permission to do so.
And the time. So they have to, like what you're proposing and what we do help firms do is like have it written down. So there's the
Yeah.
process is written down so everybody is clear. And then on top of that, a lot of this is change. It's really hard for the firms to,
Yeah.
give that leader time to think about the change management because they, not to decrease their billable time so that they can focus on leading, they can focus on putting together these playbooks and these processes, and that they can focus on the change management. And it's really hard because I know they're wearing lots of different hats and time is very valuable, but that's the best way to reframe going into 2026.
Well, and not just CAS leaders just don't need to focus on change management, they need to lead it. They really need to take charge and lead that. And so what do a lot of firms want? They love templates. So just we're not going to go into a 90-day plan, but Deneen and Christine, I know you guys have put together a sample 90-day plan to start off the new year, really working toward what changes need to happen to make this transition over to client advisory services. That will be down in the show notes so people can walk away with that plan. But we don't want to get into it right now. What I want to do actually is jump ahead and really talk about what the final word is here. So bring it all home for us, Deneen, if you can, in terms of what CAS teams and leaders really need to know entering into 2026.
Yeah. Well, and so I think summarizing everything that we say is that CAS now stands for Client Advisory Services.
Number
And
one,
your
yes.
goals in 2026 is shifting everything towards advisory. That's what we're hearing a lot of the CAS leaders tell us they're focusing on. They're focusing on upskilling, on training, on automating the routine tasks with AI so that you can move into the space of advising clients more, which means also charge more. And so your CAS client advisory service is going to be more profitable. It's going to be more automated. It's going to be more standardized, and you're going to be focusing on advising the clients.
Yes. Anything to add, Christine?
I would just reiterate too the giving space to be strategic, right? It's the systems over heroics, standardize, coach, let technology carry the routine so that people can carry the conversation, but then provide your staff and team with the training to be able to carry the conversation and have the story to tell to the clients. And really, at the end of the day, in 2026, that's our goal within Infinite Ties is to come in and provide all of those, what we're hearing from firms and CAS leaders of what they need. And so that's the training that we will be deploying here in 2026, which we're really excited about.
It's awesome. Well, this has all been good stuff. I think looking back at 2025 and really hitting on what the main struggles were, what firms are talking about, and looking forward to 2026 goals where CAS is concerned is really helpful. That 90-day plan, I think, will be helpful for people really looking to jump on that in 2026. And then, of course, reach out to Deneen or Christine if you have any questions, our CAS experts. So, anything final to add, Deneen or Christine, before we say goodbye on this episode?
Well, I just want to say we're super excited to work with everybody in 2026, listening to what everybody's goals are for this 2026 year, and how we can partner with you to help you upskill your talent and move towards advisory.
And also just a thank you to all the firms, all the firms. We have gathered so much information, right? And we really, again, are passionate about this space. And so just trying to elevate and make this space better. Um, and so just really, truly am appreciative of everybody that's just a part of this CAS group, and we just keep adding people to the CAS community every day. And so we're just really excited. So thank
Yeah,
you.
we
Is
love
like
working.
I'm just a very grateful and just excited to roll into the new year of what's to come.
Yes, and our passion and our drive for educating on CAS is not going to slow down. So we're looking at lots more great information packed episodes of Fancastic, which really is your masterclass to mastercast. That is our promise to you. And this is Fancastic.